Recording in progress.
Okay. So I'm Jim Heller. I'm a lawyer, lives in Victoria, British Columbia, criminal defense lawyer. Um, I'm uh, on this call now with my friend Howard Fox, um, who is an artist and musician, but an incredible artist who is also from Toronto. I'm from Toronto. I grew up there. I'm in Victoria now. Howie moved to Israel some years ago, and he's there now. And that's what this video is all about. I want to talk to Howie about some of the perspective that he's got as a guy that speaks good English and lives about, if I remember, are you like about an hour north of Tel Aviv? Is that about it?
Well, I for the discussion, I don't want to say, but yeah, it's about
Okay. Sorry, man. Okay.
no problem, no problem.
Okay. Anyways, Howie's an incredible artist. And before we do anything else, I just want you to see he's in his studio right now, and you can see some of the stuff that he's working on behind him. He does just incredible stuff. He does wonderful realistic paintings. He does surrealistic paintings. Um, he
I would
does,
I would call it more imaginative realism.
oh yeah, okay.
But
Yeah,
I don't paint flying dragons and women with wings.
okay, great.
So it's not that kind of thing.
Yeah. So anyways, we're doing this a month after 10/7, after the Hamas attack in southern Israel.
Uh,
Right off the bat, I want to ask you how about, I guess, first, it's only right for me to ask you, how are you, right? You're there, your country's under siege, you're at war. How are you doing?
I'm doing okay. We happen to be in an area of the country that is just out of range of the Hamas rockets, so we haven't had to flee to the bomb shelter or anything like that. There have been explosions a few kilometers away with the Iron Dome taking out rockets in the air, and yeah, so we have actually been quite lucky in that regard. But I remember that Shabbat morning, and a friend sent me a WhatsApp with pictures of the first picture I saw was a Hamasnik standing there with his military gear, and he's holding his gun and he's smiling. I wonder what the fuck is going on. And behind him, there's a row of dead women. You know, just your regular middle of the road, middle-aged dead women lying in pools of blood. And I go, whoa. You know, it's I write back my friend and said, what are you sending me this stuff for? What is this? Is this AI? What is this crap? This looks like Hamas crap. And then the pictures kept on coming in, more were coming in, and he's telling me this is real. And I never imagined it. I never imagined that that could take place. And it
What
was
time was that? What time was that about?
that was 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday morning. That's when I got the first picture. And it was freaky. And then the videos on Telegram started coming through of the Toyota trucks, just like Daesh, ISIS, used to ride in their Toyota trucks and kill people. And they were shooting at everything, just shooting at everything. And it was unbelievable. I was shocked by it. I didn't believe it for a while. And then it just kept on coming and coming and coming. And yeah, it was horrible.
And by that point, I guess you're checking things out online. You're looking, you're
Well,
getting,
there was very little at the time. Basically, you start hearing from people who are hearing from people that are down there.
Howie, for some reason, sorry,
Rockets.
for some reason, your video blurs a little bit and then it comes in and out. I wonder why. Are you getting too close to the, no, that's
No,
not good.
I think it's just my aura.
Okay, it's not blurring that badly. I don't know
Well,
why
when I
that,
move, I was moving. I was swinging in my seat.
okay,
So
all
I
right.
suspect that's the
I,
reason. I
I'm
try.
sorry. Now it's
Oh, here
blurred.
it is again.
Yeah, you can see that. I don't know why. Anyways, let's just carry on. I'm sorry, you were talking about the news reports. I really want to understand best, and I want anybody seeing this to understand how you got it, how it all came in. You're getting the telegram and the WhatsApp pictures and the videos. You're starting to
There's
understand.
also, so I,
Go
I,
ahead.
I head downstairs, I go to the television, and all of a sudden there's war reporting going on all the stations. And there's also rockets being fired, thousands of rockets. So what they have on the television in the top right hand corner, they list towns and cities that have their sirens going. So people realize that they have to head to a bomb shelter. And I'm just watching city after city after city, and I have relatives in Beersheba, and they're getting hit.
Where's that?
Not personally. Hmm?
Where's Beersheba?
Beersheba, that's about 35, 40 clicks east of Gaza.
Okay.
The main city in the Negev, basically
Right.
the gateway to the Negev. And my relatives are in their bomb shelters, and it hits home really, really quick. And I'm watching a war taking place on television, and it's not too far away. And we're just out of reach, luckily. So,
Were
yeah,
you
it's
in were you in contact with your friends and relatives in Beersheba?
sure. Yeah. They're calling from the bomb shelter.
Right.
Everybody's wondering how everybody's doing. And then the news about the party started coming because we were getting WhatsApp from people in the party who are freaking out, and to be on acid and at a trance party and all of a sudden you're being shot at is I can't even imagine that experience.
So
And
when we
people
were
are
talking,
being killed. And in this town, we lost quite a few kids who were at the party.
so when we were talking earlier, you explained to me that the party's only like about 4 clicks, 4 kilometers away from Gaza City. It's like right
Yeah,
there on the
it
border.
could be five. Gaza City's closer to the sea, so this is inland. But
Right.
I'm not sure. I don't know exactly,
Yeah, but it's close.
but it's
And
close. You can hear the music all
right.
over,
There's
all over there.
no barriers. It's just like an open
Yeah,
desert. And
yeah.
open desert at night, I would imagine the sound would carry even that much more the night before. All through the night, the people in Gaza would easily be able to hear this trance party, this
Yeah,
rave.
and they knew it was going on. They knew it was planned. There were 20,000 Gazan workers coming in every day, and they were working in some of these kibbutzim. And the party was in the fields of Kibbutz Re'em, and they had Gazans working there. So they see things are being set up. They see the sound equipment coming in and all this fluorescent painting going on in the area, and they got to bring the electricity in the toilets and all this stuff in. So you have workers coming and going. They know what's going on, and in the evening they go back to Gaza.
Um, so this is a Saturday morning. What did the rave start the day before? I mean, these things usually are a couple days
No,
long,
it's a day or 2 days before,
right?
maybe
And
two. But I just know it was on already for a while before the attack. I think that
right.
was the last day.
So were you actually personally getting did you have anybody there, or you got 2 kids? Did either of them have any messages that you were hearing from them they were getting at the time from
Well,
the
my son was in Alaska, and my daughter doesn't really hang out in that trance.
right.
That's not her thing. And but I had a student, good artist. There's a picture over there of hers, and she had 4 friends killed, 4 or 5, not sure the number. And for the next week, she was going to funerals and shiva houses, and yeah, it really hit home. I know, one of the girls who was killed was the daughter of a friend of mine, who was also a former drummer in a former band of mine. And she was a beautiful girl, and What, how old was she? 24? In the prime of her life. So they found her body at the border. So who knows what she went through?
Right.
Just
How about
horrible.
kidnappies? How about kidnappies? Is there anybody that that you know that is currently missing?
Personally, no. My wife knows people whose kids are have been kidnapped. I personally don't.
Right. Um, you know,
But I do have a friend, keeping it personal, I do have a friend who I found out yesterday. He was a former student of mine, and he had a kid who used to come up during classes and sit in the corner and paint. And he was killed yesterday in Gaza, which is
as
horrible.
a soldier.
Yeah, he was a medic in Givati, and he was killed yesterday, which is really sad.
I'm so
He's a
sorry.
brilliant artist, great artist, and a great kid. But you know, yeah.
Howie, there's a funny thing that's kind of, I don't know to what extent anybody indulges in this or you're even aware of it in Israel. You're probably aware of it a little bit, but it's something that, in fact, people across the board throughout the West, even people that who I generally respect, opinion leaders, and just regular people, some people have indulged in a certain kind of conspiracy speculation, um, all concerning what seems to be an inexplicable lack of response time, lack of awareness, dropped defenses on the part of Israel, to the extent that they actually speculate about some sort of a stand down order or even complicity. It's so horrendous. And because it didn't pass, it didn't even come close, it didn't even approach the moral plausibility scale for me. I gave it no quarter whatsoever. But I was talking with you earlier. That's what made us think that I've got to do this. I've got to make this video because I wanted to kind of capture some of your thoughts about that. So here you have us in the West. We see, we understand Israel's got, everybody knows it's kind of like Israel's reputation as having the best intel, the deepest, most profound, most effective security measures. We know about the Iron Dome, which sounds almost like it still sounds fantastic and almost supernatural and yet effective. All of that, tiny little Israel, nobody's been able to take it out, and it's got this incredible hair trigger security apparatus. How in the world was it not A, prepared, B, able to respond in a flash, all of that? It must be the case, think these people, that there's some complicity. And then they get into like just a kind of like you're down in an ugly rabbit hole at that point. So what do you think about that, Howard? How do you best understand how A, Israel didn't know this was going to happen, and B, how the response time wasn't better?
Well, one of the things that I say is, well, it's not something I say, but something exists because there's been a conspiracy theory attached to it. Now, I'm not, I know historically there have been many conspiracies. So I don't automatically say conspiracies are crazy because historically there's been so many of them. But I asked myself that too. I said, how the hell did this happen?
Right.
How can this happen? How did da 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 da? It's not a wall. It's a chain link fence that's electrified. But it's a fucking chain link fence. You can walk, you can try and climb it. If you can, disable the electricity, you can try and climb it, which is what they did. And, actually, Hamas's plan was brilliant. It was well thought out, took 2 years, according to intelligence sources. And Israel got caught with its pants down. It wasn't ready. It wasn't prepared. There was one general in particular that they wouldn't even invite to television anymore because he was always going on and on how Israel is not prepared for a big war, for what may be coming.
Right.
And it turned out to be right. It same thing happened in Yom Kippur. Same thing happened in with Lebanon. Israel was not prepared. When these things happen, when it's a surprise, Israel as a static army, I don't think is great. I don't know how many armies are great when they're static, whether it's the French on the Maginot Line, who all of a sudden the Germans go around. Wasn't they were sleeping? They just were sleeping in a sense. They weren't prepared. They weren't thinking that this would happen. So in Israel, it's a case where soldiers were. It was the holiday of Simchas Torah, and soldiers were let go. It was a Saturday. People go home. That's just the way it is. Soldiers, even now, who are called up now, and they're not in Gaza, they go home. They
Okay,
come and
so
they,
I would think that I mean, we in Little Victoria here, we've got our Blink camera. All these. You go to Best Buy, there are a million different kinds of security cameras. I would have assumed that every square inch of that chain link fence and probably all of Israel and all of Gaza would be under some sort of video surveillance.
yes,
And
it is. Yeah, it is. And the girls who are watching the cameras were brutally murdered, and it's horrible. And the question is, did they see it and say to their commanders that this is going on? How did the commanders respond? Did
right,
they respond like they should have, or did they go, nah? Because you got to think that for 2 weeks before, the Hamas was sending people up to just Gazans up to the fence to try and climb the fence, and they're burning tires, which I'm surprised the global warming people are not upset about. But
mhm,
they're burning hundreds of tires, and the border isn't 2 miles. The border is long; it's almost 90 kilometers. So you can't stick a person everywhere. You got cameras. But for 2 weeks, every day they're coming and they're burning tires. And it turns out that they're messing with the cameras and they're messing with the systems there. And they're basically lulling the Israelis to sleep. Every day.
it sounds like it might do the opposite. It sounds like it'd be like, um, if nothing else, an incredible provocation, but also maybe a tell that things aren't normal. Rather than lulling them to sleep, you would almost think that that would put them on further on guard. Like,
Well,
what the fuck?
obviously it didn't, because when
Right, right.
every day you're waking up and you go, oh, they're burning tires again.
Mhm.
Oh, they're trying to climb the fence and they have orders not to shoot.
Right.
I don't, I'm not a soldier. I don't know, but I would, from watching movies and reading comic books, if somebody's trying to climb a fence to get into your country, unless it's the United States, you shoot.
Right.
I would expect the RCMP to shoot people. If you go across the Niagara Falls border into Canada, and they don't go, "Hey, hey, welcome." If you're trying to sneak in, the RCMP can get serious.
And they
And
don't get serious like that. They don't get deadly serious. But
well,
you're
they don't
right.
get deadly serious, but they're going to stop you. They're going to do shit to stop you.
Right.
And here it's like every day they're coming, and there's orders. Basically stand down orders that you don't shoot at them. You let it go. You let it go. And another day comes and it's quiet. It's 6 in the morning. You're expecting maybe they'll come with their tires and burn them and make a mess and yell and scream and do all sorts of chaos at the border to create chaos. But this morning, it's not like that. And they showed up with bulldozers, tractors coming up and just boom, getting rid of the fence. And there weren't that many soldiers prepared at the time. My only question is where were the helicopters? I don't know where the helicopters were. And that's the only question that's still I can see the Israelis fucking up. It's not Sparta. This isn't a military state. It's people, it's just not, it's not that feeling. People all go to the army, not all, but like 60% of the young people go to the army, but they're not walking around like I'm a soldier. This is my life. I'm a soldier. I love guns. It's just you
Right.
go to the army, and half of the soldiers never even shoot a gun.
Right.
and they're put on, they're put on guard duty. They don't know what they're. It's almost like they're sitting ducks. And that day they were sitting ducks. And
You'd say,
things have to change. I don't want to say everything, but things hopefully will change because it was too lax. And even I was thinking that from all that was coming out of the government and all that's coming out of the media and the intelligence sources, like the last war with Gaza under the previous
was
government,
when? Which was when?
which is like a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And oh, and by the way, October 7th, Hamas broke the ceasefire that they had made a year and a half ago. So having another ceasefire with them ain't worth shit.
Well, so to clarify that, you could say that the very existence of Hamas in Gaza kind of is premised on a long-standing ceasefire because of their stated intent to eradicate Israel and all that. But you're saying that there was a more specific ceasefire, and
A year and
right,
a half ago.
year and a
Year and
half
a
ago.
half ago, the war came to an end. Everybody said ceasefire, ceasefire, ceasefire. The Egyptians got involved and the Americans do their dance. Go get them. We're interested in your security, but don't win the war. That's like in the Second World War saying to the Russians, okay, 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 don't go into Berlin. And the Berlins would go, fuck, the Russians are going to go, well, they're Soviets actually, just say, fuck you. We've lost a lot of people and we want to eradicate the Nazis. We don't want to push them back. We don't want to put them in a corner. We want to kill them. And they went and they killed them and the world applauded. And then afterwards they took them over, which is not what Israel wants to do. We don't
No,
want Gaza. There's nothing there for us in Gaza. There's some very nice beach property, but nothing really that we need in Gaza. And yeah, it's the same dance all the time. All of a sudden, they're discussing proportionality. I didn't hear proportionality when Armenia and Azerbaijan were going to war. I don't hear about people saying to the Ukrainians, you can't knock out that Russian cruiser in the Black Sea because they haven't hit any of your cruisers, or you don't even have any. So you can't do that. That's disproportionate. We don't want you to kill too many Russians. I haven't heard that yet. And this is the only war where all of a sudden people get involved saying disproportionality and the shit about colonialism, and it's a really bad excuse for a massacre, colonialism.
yeah, totally. Listen, I want to ask you about something that's really kind of interesting and important that you told me about earlier.
Uh-oh.
Well, when we talked earlier, I think it was yesterday you first raised it. You said, and I think you were kind of citing this other guy that you were telling me about too, that we can talk about him, Mordecai. What's his
Mordecai Kedar.
Kedar, Kedar. And anyways, you were telling me that in your understanding, Hamas, as you put it, they fucked up. That somehow there was even with all of the extensive and long-term planning, there was an even longer plan that was still in place, and that they went early. And tell me what you think about that and why you think it's true. What do you mean by that? And why do you think it's true?
Well, when all this happened on October 7th, you're wondering, you're looking for conspiracies. People are immediately, I was getting conspiracies sent to me.
Right?
And you're looking through that and you're watching how 8 hours goes by and these guys are just massacring people in the kibbutzim, and they're raping and murdering women in the streets of Sderot and kidnapping whole families and just unbelievable stuff. And for me, I was wondering, where are the helicopters? Where's the army? And what's going on here? And I came upon, I thought, okay, I got to find some rationale. Everybody's yelling and screaming and freaking out. I got to find a rational speaker. And when I need that, I go to this guy, Mordechai Kedar. And he's, I don't know how old he is. He's probably just a little older than I am. And he's a brilliant guy who understands the Arabs, appears often on Arab television stations to debate religious characters and semi-secular characters. There aren't too many of those guys on Saudi television.
Mhm.
And he was brilliant. And I started looking for his videos a few years ago, and he just has a deep understanding of history, and he uses Ibn Haldun as his as almost his Talmud for how the mind of the Middle East works.
Oh
And
yeah, never heard of that guy. Ibn.
Haldun or
Let's spell both
Khaldun.
these names. Let's spell both these names. I'll
Khaldun.
put them in the comments too. But Mordecai Kedar is Mordecai, like Mordecai Richler, who happened to be my cousin, by the way. And
Get
when he
out of here.
and when he came to Victoria once, I looked him up. I figured he must be staying at the Empress, and he was here on his O Canada tour. And I introduced myself. Hey, my grandmother was like your first cousin to your father or something. He said, "What the fuck do you want?" And I said, "Okay." Thanks, Mordecai. But anyway, so that's
Well,
M.
that's good.
Yeah, Jews, man. So that's Mordecai. Regular spelling, and Kedar is Kedar.
Yeah, he doesn't have a lot of videos in English, but if you know Hebrew, he's he's brilliant. He
Okay.
explains so much,
And
and
then
he
the other
has
guy, Ibn.
Ibn Khaldun, which is K. You know what? I'd have to go look it up.
Well,
Ibn
I'll get it. Don't worry
Khaldun.
about
It's Khaldun.
it. Okay.
I
And so anyway,
suspect.
what about these guys?
Well, he wrote a book about how cultures work, how Middle Eastern cultures work. Basically saying how generations change according to their circumstances. He speaks of originally you have the people in the desert, and in the desert you have an extended family or even a small family, and their source of water is a well, and the
Right.
family has to protect that well or they die. It's cut and dry. And everybody in the family is basically brought up to kill for the family.
Is that him?
I don't know. I'm not sure about
That's
his.
that's An Ibn Khaldun, who lived a long time ago.
Well,
He
yeah,
had
it's in the what year?
no
1200s,
third, third,
1100s
yeah. Okay, so 1332 Tunisia, and he died
in
March
Egypt.
17th, March 17th in 1406, right after spring break.
Beautiful.
Okay, so anyways, all right. So tell us more about him. Go
So
ahead.
he does it. He has this book. The name is in Arabic, so I can't remember it. It's in English, but he explains that you have the desert family that protects its well, just like Abraham protected his well. And all the biblical characters were extended families that protected their well, and they were willing to kill for their well, and they
Right?
were also willing to kill for family honor, the honor of the extended family, the honor of their daughters, their own personal honor. It's very, very important because that's the only thing that binds you is
Okay.
honor, and the water, protecting the source of water. And eventually, those people look down, from the hills down into the valley, and they see green and a river flowing through it, and people who grow food. They're not so interested in protecting the well because they got a river and they're eating well. And like usually happens, as it happens so often in history, the people come down from the mountains and they kill the people down in the valleys, and they take their water and their land. And, so the next generation is living easier. And, they'll protect what they have because they've just gotten it. But then the next generation is a little plumper, softer. They don't feel the need to protect the well anymore. That's already old news. That's previous generations. And they get a little plump and a little soft. And a generation later, another bunch of people crop up on top of the mountain and they come down. So, that's how he's viewing Israel to a degree, that the first generation that came here fought like hell for the land, and because they were coming out of Europe and they needed a place to be. They weren't the mountain people, they were just the desperate people. And the people here, they also fought for their, but they didn't have this sense of land. They didn't have a sense of being as strong here because there was no Palestinian people here at the time. They had just finished with 500 years of the Ottoman Empire, and those were the days when you had the Ummah, the Arab Ummah, which stretched from North Africa to the east to Iraq, which was the Arab nation, Ummah meaning mother. And that's how they saw themselves. There was no, the Brits basically brought in imported nationalism from Europe and started making agreements with the Sharif of Mecca and with the Jews saying, we'll draw some borders here for you and some borders for you and some borders for you and borders for you. And previous to that, under the Turkish rule, there were no borders. There was no Lebanon. Mark Twain, when he came to the Middle East, he came down through Turkey, went through Antioch, and then headed into what is now the Bekaa Valley, not what is now the Bekaa Valley, into the Bekaa Valley in what is now Lebanon. But at the time, it was Syria. And then when he crossed into the Holy Land, it was still Syria. It was called Greater Syria. And the people here could consider themselves, at best, Syrians, but mainly just living in the Ummah.
There were no passports.
There were no passports. There were, Palestine is an imported name. They weren't Palestinians. They were, at best, Syrians living in Bilad Sham, Greater Syria. And, half the population, more than half the population, were imported from other places by the Turks, because the Turks got here and said, there ain't nobody here.
Yeah.
There's nobody there.
So why would they want to bother importing Arabs from around?
Well, they weren't importing Arabs, they were importing Slavs from the Balkans who were Muslims. Because they had Bulgaria at the time. They had all the Balkan.
Why would they want to import anybody? Why would they want to?
Because you have to populate a land. You have to get taxes.
Right.
You have to farm. You have to provide food. And, you may have to fight for the land. So you got to have people here. And they wanted Muslims. Although they did bring in Armenians, Christian Armenians. And then when Ataturk took over, he allowed Jews in. So the Jews started coming. But then, the Jews brought in nationalism with them too. And they also brought the name Palestine with them. So even before the Brits came, the Jews who were coming in were calling it Palestine.
So here's the thing.
But they had a reason for it.
Okay, I understand that. And I think I know a little bit. I've been steeping myself in a lot of videos and a lot of reading about the history of Israel. I knew some before because I'm Jewish and I've been there twice to Israel. But since past month, I've been watching a lot, really digging these videos of this young, he's an Israeli travel guy with a master's in Israeli history, and Oren something. They're just fucking incredible.
I think I've seen him.
Yeah.
Have you seen Yosef Haddad?
No, I have not.
He's an Arab Christian Israeli.
Okay.
And he's confronting Arabs on campuses in the United States, and he's doing a lot of videos.
Okay, I'll check him out.
In Arabic, also in Hebrew, and in English. Okay. Yosef Haddad, I believe his name is.
Okay, but I want to do this before we go any further because I want to make sure that anybody seeing this doesn't kind of like lose interest and miss this point. I want to ask you about this whole kind of early um, kind of this early spontaneous aspect to the attack on October 7th. Here's what you were telling me. You were telling me earlier that
Mhm.
you understand
Oh, you
that
want the big picture?
the fact that you understand that
Okay, I'll
the
tell you.
Hamas you know what I'm talking about. Hamas
Yeah,
hearing the trance music, and it's kind of they're getting it for a day or so, day and a half, 2 days, and it's coming into Gaza, and they kind of know what's happening, and they know that there's a party there. And I don't know about you, but I like trance music. It's cool. It's groovy. And hearing that, and
I'm
they're
not a
thinking,
big fan.
and it what's that? Oh, come
I'm
on.
not a big fan, but that's
Anyways,
okay.
so okay, but they somehow they just clue into the fact that there's like this party there going on in a way that they can't enjoy, and they know that there's like this
No,
lush.
it's not just
Yeah.
they can't, it's not that they can't enjoy it, they abhor it.
Okay,
It
so
goes
anyway,
against everything that they want for their society.
yeah,
And but as I was telling you, Iran had a
yes,
big plan. As this guy Kadar has been saying for a number of years, he's been saying Iran has a big plan. And the
yeah,
big
this
plan
is
is
important.
to,
This is
in
important.
the north, have the Hezbollah armed to their teeth. In Syria, there's Iranian forces, there's Iranian Revolutionary Guard that are encroaching on the Golan, and plus Syrian forces, and who knows what the fuck the Russians are up to. And in Iraq, there's also long range rockets because, democracy basically brought Iran into Iraq to rule Iraq. And in the south, you have these Houthis in Yemen,
Yemenis,
in
yeah,
Yemen, who have been firing rockets at Saudi Arabia for a few years. And
okay,
now they've started firing rockets at us, but they're armed. And in the close south, we have Hamas. So the idea is that Israel was surrounded, and by sea, the Iranians have a navy. So, they could have they've been working to set up this belt that they can pull on and really screw us. And as a lot of people have been saying, Israel has been lulled into this state of this sense that we're strong, we don't really have to prepare all that much. Everything's going to be just fine. That's a common phrase in Israel. Kol yeh beseder. Everything will be right. Everything's going to be okay. Don't worry.
right.
And you know, and we're just watching this growing all around us. And the Iranians are just waiting for the day that, like at 6 o'clock in the morning, it could be Yom Kippur morning or any holiday. They like hitting us on our holidays.
Right.
That's the respect they show for the people of the book. And just one morning, one quiet morning, open up from every side, just throw everything at Israel that they can. Thousands of rockets coming from every direction. And, if life were perfect for them, then in the West Bank, the Arabs would start another revolt and we'd be screwed.
But that didn't happen.
That didn't happen because
Why?
Hamas heard the music, saw a very easy target, a drug party for peace, filled with people who are just
Oh my
people
God.
are people who are stoned and on acid and just tripping and dancing and enjoying the music, and they just went, this is too easy, we got to do it. And for them it was an orgasm. They're pounding their chests and they're sending films to their parents who are yelling yalla yalla ji shahid shahid, and all even their parents are celebrating my child the monster. Isn't that wonderful? My child has fulfilled his dream of being a monster. And they're raping and killing and pillaging, and it's just absolute craziness because they had the opportunity. Now the
Okay.
Iranians are sitting there going, what the fuck?
Yeah.
This should be happening in a year from now, and it should be everybody at the same time. But the Persians and the Shiites historically view the Arabs as dogs. I'm sorry to say it, but Everybody knows it. The Persians don't like the Arabs.
Yeah.
You know, when Iran and Iraq went to war, it wasn't a few thousand killed like in Gaza. It wasn't even 500,000, 600,000 in Syria. They killed 1 million and something people in a war, which the media barely covered. But it was a Shiite Sunni war. Saddam, who said he was the great warrior of the Sunni world versus the Shiites in Iran.
Right.
And they saw this was their opportunity to wipe Israel out, and Hamas went early.
Now,
They
how do you
jumped
know that?
the gun.
That is the greatest. That makes a lot of sense to me. It resonates a lot with me, and I'm receptive and open to that theory. But is this just your speculation? Like, why do you believe?
This I first heard from Kedar, and everything that I've read and that I've heard from people, from soldiers who are at the front, from all sorts of people. It's a small country. It's just it sounds right. You know, they're interviewing all these monsters that they caught.
How
You know,
many?
the
Like,
us.
any rough idea how many they've got?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay, but
And
anyway,
I don't know.
okay,
I've heard so many different figures. I wouldn't even venture to say one.
okay, but anyways,
But
they're
they
in.
killed most of them. There was no. They weren't. They caught a few prisoners, and then the rest. Forget it. We got enough. And
Is that proportionate? Do you think that was fair for them to kill them like that? I mean,
who?
I'm just kidding.
The guys who came in? Yeah, come on, come on.
Anyway, so
So
they're interviewing them,
and these guys are telling they're saying all of a sudden at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning they're told to gather at their meeting point. This is it, and they're out. They're gone. They're happening at 6:30 in the morning. They're heading towards the border. Everything's moving, and the Israelis are sleeping. And they saw their chance. They came in by air. You know, Black Lives Matter had their cartoon, their
yeah.
poster out saying they're proud of these cocksuckers, and they're coming in by air,
But
shooting
which
at the
means what?
party.
Like, how did they do that? They have planes? Like, where did they
No, they
launch?
have those. They have those. I don't even
Oh,
know what they're called. They
they were
got like
motorized. So right, they could
they're
take
just
off.
motorized kites. They're
Yes, yes, yes.
kites.
So they can't, right. So they're motorized, so they actually could take off from the ground like a plane. That's what they did. So they didn't
Yeah,
have,
and every Saturday morning, I see guys flying over my house
right.
in those contraptions,
Yeah, yeah,
and you don't think of shooting them, right? They're
right,
just guys in a. So for somebody to see that happening at a party, they're not thinking
right.
anything of, it. And they're not going to shoot at them. There were some armed guards, some
Okay,
policemen at the party, but they're
you've
not going to
told me
shoot them.
you've told me something that kind of I think really adds weight to this idea, to this theory, which I think is probably true. This thing that you told me that adds weight to it is the fact that they were scrambled together, kind of on the fly, early in the morning, because they were all trusted. It's not like if there was a plan, let's say they had planned for a couple of weeks. We know that this rave is going to be happening, so their leadership says this is what we're going to do on October 7th. We're going to go. They wouldn't have held that plan back from Hamas on the fear that somehow would have leaked out. They weren't worried about that. They weren't worried about leaking. So the reason that they didn't tell these guys and plan earlier is because
Well,
it was a real
I
spontaneous,
think they
it was
would
a
have been worried
spontaneous plan.
anyways about leaking.
Well,
There's a lot of leaking that goes on
why do
because
you
there's
guys
a
have any
lot of
spies? Were there no spies? I mean, I've seen
yeah, but
Falcon.
I guess they were sleeping at 5 in the morning. People
Yours,
sleep.
you
I
think
don't
that
know. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. I
right.
don't know how embedded the Shabak was. I have no idea. I don't know. These are things that are going to have to come out later
Okay.
because
But
heads
anyways,
heads should roll.
I think it's really important, this idea, because I think it's likely true. And in a sense, I think it's like horrible to say, but you might be totally right. This might be a real silver lining. They went early, and that might have ultimately saved Israel's
Well, why
ass.
why didn't Hezbollah attack? Why didn't they attack? If everything is ready, then they should have. It was a perfect moment to attack.
Right,
But it doesn't look like everything was ready. I don't
right,
think they got the go from Iran. Today's the morning. We're all going to do it. I think Hamas went on their own and they caught everybody by surprise and they caught him on a back foot because, within 3 days, you had the Israeli army up in the north. Back in 2007, when there was a war with Lebanon, there was nothing there. There were the regular border troops. They don't send the whole army up there.
right.
But now everybody's in place. Everybody's ready in the north. They're not going to be surprised in the north like they were in the south. So if Hezbollah was looking for an easy day of it to cross in and rape and pillage and do all the shit that they like to do, they can't do it right now. So they're sitting there, Iran is probably telling them, wait another year. They'll go back to sleep again. They'll have their parade. They don't have parades here, but they'll have their commemoration day and the kids will light candles in the schools, but they're not going to do anything. They're not going to prepare. And that's the fear here that it's just every day defending yourself is difficult. When you're on the attack, when you decide today I'm going to kill some innocent civilians, you can pick your day.
Right.
But the Israelis have to be ready for it all the time. And that no humans aren't built like that. We go to sleep. We get a little apathetic. If things are quiet, we go, what are we worried about? And like I said earlier,
And there must
Hamas,
have been friendships. There, like I've heard about all of the kind of the relaxed restrictions and the kind of increase of the work permits for the
yeah, it
lawyers.
was like,
There must have been friendships or faux friendships that were kind of being formed.
well, that's the freaky part. You don't know who you can trust.
Right.
Because when they found some of the guys they killed, some of the terrorists they killed, they found on one guy had been working at the kibbutz for
Right.
years.
No.
Everybody knew him. Everybody liked him. They probably kibitzed and joked with him and, how's your family? And maybe they were even invited to weddings
Wow.
in the kibbutz. Who knows? I don't know. But they
Right.
found on one of them a map with every house, everybody's name, how many children, how many dogs. Because, it's better to go to a house without dogs.
Oh yeah.
But they knew everything. This guy had just done his spying there, and that's a difficult thing when because I have a few Arab friends, not a lot here, and you wonder if when it comes down to the nitty gritty, who can you trust?
Quranic prescription to not take Christians or Jews as your friends. I mean, it's there. They're either disregard it,
I don't know if
rational.
that's Quranic or Hadith,
No, it's
but
Quranic. It's Quranic. It's Quranic.
okay.
Yeah.
Well, I got a buddy. I got two buddies who I really like, and I've seen them since. I've seen one of them since it happened, and we've just continued on. We haven't really discussed that at all.
Right.
And he's a nice guy. So, but I,
Oh,
you just don't know. You don't know, especially in this kind of, it's like right now. I'm seeing all these interviews taking place on YouTube, and I'll hear. I watched what's his name, Ali something from MSNBC or
what
one of
a, what
those.
a what a piece of shit he is. Okay.
But he's interviewing Bennett, the former prime minister of Israel.
Right.
And, he's just talking and he goes, well, there's 10,000 dead Palestinians right now. And, where does he get that number from? Where it's,
The
they'll
gas
say from the
gas enhancing health.
Palestinian
Yeah.
the Palestinian Health Commission. Who the
Right.
fuck are they? They're getting figures from Hamas. And Hamas, the night that the hospital was hit by a
Yeah.
rocket, the hospital wasn't even hit.
I know.
The
Yeah.
aerial photograph showed the next day it was a parking lot that was hit, and they're going up to 800 killed. And I'm watching it. It's 10 o'clock at night here,
Right.
and I'm watching 800 killed, up to 800 killed, according to the Red Crescent, Palestinian Red Crescent, the PRC. I'm going, why is that coming on the bottom of the screen? I'm watching CNN, according to PRC. And then I go to France 24, and it's Qatar News reports that up to 800 people have been killed. And then Turkish news, the Turkish news outlet, it's 800 and up. And they're all quoting this number. And to this day, we don't even know if somebody was killed. It was
No.
it was a fucking
Oh,
parking lot.
there's a
It
parking
was a
lot, but I heard
parking
that
lot at 10 o'clock
10
at
to
night.
50. I know, but I heard that the real numbers were like 10 to 50 people. No, you
Who
don't know.
knows? Who knows? I saw on another report, I think it's this guy Navarro or something. This guy I just came upon on YouTube. They're Marxists. Marxists who are out to make money with a YouTube station. Those are my favorite Marxists.
Right.
And this guy is showing film of a woman crying, and she's crying about, the hospital being bombed by the evil Israelis. And they show she's looking down onto the parking lot, and it's filled with ambulances, and people are being carried on stretchers, and some people are hobbling around, and they got some, blood on them, and it's a ghastly scene, but it's daytime. I'm looking at the film and it hits me. It's daytime. This took place at 10 o'clock at night.
Hmm.
You know, what, 15 hours later, they're
Right.
acting like it just happened 5 seconds ago. And I'm going, at some point, if you're going to be pretending to report what's going on here or saying you're objective, look at the film, think about it. Okay, I can understand how he thought about it, because in the United States, it was what time? 10 o'clock at night. It was 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So, oh yeah, when they heard about it, it was daytime. So when they see somebody crying in all this bullshit film
Yeah.
and it's daytime, you got to think, what time was it there? And it was nighttime. They saw the
Yeah,
film of
that's
the
right.
missile going wrong, which was out that I remember the first time I saw it, it was an Al Jazeera report they were showing, and Al Jazeera showed that the rocket went wrong. And them saying, oops. And
Yeah.
an argument between a Hamas guy and an Islamic Jihad. The Islamic Jihad guy saying it was a Hamas rocket, and the Hamas are saying it was an Islamic Jihad rocket, but they're reporting to the world that it was an Israeli airplane. And there were no airplanes in the air. So nothing was being bombed that night. And they're still reporting figures from Hamas as if it has any connection to truth at all. It doesn't matter, you say 10,000 according to Hamas, all people hear is 10,000.
Yeah, of
They don't
course.
hear according to Hamas. Just
I've got
say,
to,
you know what? We don't know the number. We don't know a number, but it looks like
you're
a
right.
lot of people are being killed. That's all.
Okay, you're right. You're right. Sorry to kind of to interrupt you on this, but I want to ask you. I've been meaning to ask you for. I want to ask you about the. You've seen this intense, crazy. Even if one might have kind of expected it would be there waiting in the shadows, this giant wolf of anti-Semitism that's erupted in the West.
Mm-hmm.
Did that surprise you at all? I mean, one would have expected some of it, but are you surprised by some of its breadth and depth and just viciousness? Is there anything about it that surprises you?
Yeah. The viciousness surprises me. The degree of hate for something that they know nothing about. I get the Muslims. The Muslims, this is what they do. This is their default position, is burn a flag and scream. Right? I get it. I accept it. They don't like each other. I look at their hate for us and I wonder, well, how did they kill so many Syrians? They don't like each other very much. And it happened in Lebanon, and there was a civil war in Jordan, and civil war in Iraq, and and the Iranians have this totally despotic and ridiculously retarded state of affairs.
Right.
And the Libyans are killing each other, and the Moroccans are fighting with the Polisaros for control of the Sahara Desert. And you're just going like, there's just so much hate. And it's not simply directed at me, it's directed at everybody. And so I get the Muslims. They're out there yelling and screaming, and they've got the numbers. There's a ton of Muslim immigration to the United States and Canada. And, the Muslims don't mind getting in a scuffle, or as they used to say in NHL terms, a Donnybrook, if you remember that old term. And they like mixing it up. They don't, they'll get 10 together and they'll jump on one person and beat the hell out of them. That's how they roll. And they're facing a group of Jews who are all middle or upper middle class on the most part nowadays. And they don't want to get in a fight. They'll yell and scream, back and forth at each other, but they're not looking to jump an Arab kid or beat up an Arab woman. They're just not, that's not how the Jews work. I can't remember the last time a Muslim said, "Oh, I'm scared to walk into a Jewish neighborhood in Toronto. It's so scary." It doesn't exist, but Jews will be scared to go into a Muslim area because they're more violent. Their society is more violent. In Israel, for the last 2 years, we've been having a problem with Arab on Arab violence, which is called criminal, but it's mainly families, crime families fighting, killing each other. And you're looking at a country where, the stats in 2020 were 35 murders in the Jewish community in Israel, in the Jewish sector. And that's 7.5 million people.
I'd be out of work. I would be out of work there. I'm not going to.
You'd find something else to find.
Okay.
But 35 murders with 7.5 million people, that's like half the number of Toronto, a third of the number of murders in Toronto for a population bigger, because Greater Toronto is now 6 million. But it's relative to the rest of the world, it's nothing. It's not a violent society. Yet the Arabs, who number two and a bit million, 2.2, something like that, they had 150 murders, which is four times the number of the Jewish homicide rate for a third of the population.
Right.
So they're violent. I don't find, most of the Arabs I meet are very nice, but the thing is once it's, they get aimed in a certain direction and told a certain thing, they can head out into the streets like that. And sometimes they do it in the area here around Fachem. Something happens, they get into their cars and they drive down to the highway and they destroy the traffic lights, and then they complain, why don't we have traffic lights?
Okay, but we're talking about, you were making a point about you're surprised at how rabid and intense.
Okay, so the Muslims, I'm not surprised. I'm just not surprised.
Right.
But the left, because I used to be a Marxist back in university, I self-identified as a Marxist. I've transitioned since, using the vernacular of our day. And I remember back then, there was a Jewish guy who ran the Stalinists on campus. And I knew this guy. He was a piece of shit, but he was rabidly anti-Zionist, rabidly. And he had the most Jewish name you could imagine.
Right.
I think he was beat up too much as a kid and started hating himself.
What camp did he go to?
Huh?
I wonder what camp he went to.
I don't know. I have no idea. Idea.
Just so people know, for context, all Jews in Toronto go to summer camp. The Gentiles,
no, he was from Montreal originally.
Oh, they go to camp.
And his name was A.B.
Okay. All right.
I think Avraham. So he looked like he took a lot of elbows to the head. And he was rabidly anti-Israel. And one day we were talking, because I was a Marxist, I knew, I knew how to talk about thugs and Marxists, like whatever. And we're talking, and he said he was going to plan a march against the Zionists, against Israel. And he's going to have it on this and this day. And I'm going, really? And he goes, yeah. I said, you know what? I heard that the Trotskyites were planning the march. I didn't hear it from the Trotskyites, but I knew he would get him really pissed off. So I just floated that the Trotskyites were doing it. And in York University at the time, there was Central Square.
Yeah, I
And
remember.
all the faux Marxists used to have their tables. There were the
By
third
the
world
bookstore. By the
Marxists.
bookstore.
Huh?
By the bookstore.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And the cafeteria. And, I went up to the Trotskyite table, because I like Trotskyites. They're fun.
Oh.
And I said, I heard that the Stalinists are planning an anti-Zionist march. And they said, what are you talking about? And I said, yeah, I spoke to Abe, and he said that they're planning it. And he goes, no, we're the ones who are going to do it. And I went to the Maoist table, and they're weird. And I said, I hear that the Trotskyites are planning an anti-Zionist march. I literally saw these guys arguing with each other,
Yeah.
yelling and screaming at each other in Central Square, and the march never happened. So, those were the old day Marxists, but I even remember I had a cousin who was a Stalinist. And one day I'm hanging out in the cafeteria, and he goes, come with me, come with me. And he grabs my arm, and we walk off to a lecture hall. And we bust through the door of this lecture hall, and he starts screaming, fascist. He's telling me all the way that there's this fascist who's talking. Turns out
Right.
to be some professor wearing a suit. I don't know who he was. I don't remember. I don't know. I never knew his name. I don't know what the lecture was about. But I walked in and I'm yelling, fascist, 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 before we then walk out. So I understand what's happening
Okay, so
today.
you're an idiot. So
I
what?
was an
What?
idiot. I was a
Yeah.
useful idiot
Yeah.
for that moment. And I did my job, and I'm sorry I did it. I was a real schmuck. But I understand when I see it happening on US campuses that there's like, a bunch of kids standing there yelling shit they know nothing about. They know nothing about the speaker. They have no clue what they're yelling. But hey, it's cool to be a communist. It's cool to be a Marxist. It's cool to be a social democrat. It's cool. They don't know who Kautsky is. They don't know who Trotsky is. They don't know who Lenin is. They think Lenin might have been in the Beatles, but they're not sure. And like that, what is it that the David Bowie song where he says, "And Lenin's on sale again."
I don't know.
Oh, you pretty things, don't you know? Your
Yeah.
mamas and papas are driving insane. And there's one line where it says Lenin's on the workers are on strike and Lenin's on sale again. And I heard somebody talking about it, a younger person talking about it and saying, "Oh yeah, that's John Lennon. He
Yeah.
came out with an album." I go, "What's it have to do with workers are striking?" But they know nothing. But the hatred, I understand them going, oh, down with Zionism, down with Zionism. And river to the sea, they don't know the river's name.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they don't even know what a sea is. They know what oceans are, but they have no idea what a sea is because there's no
Right.
seas in North America. And they're screaming something that they don't understand. And okay, but the hatred, the pulling down of the posters and all this shit, it's just,
Has this galvanized the Israeli left? I mean, the attack itself is one thing, but the outrageous anti-Semitic and stupid response that you're talking about right now, has that actually kind of intellectually cornered, and kind of checkmated and woken up the Israeli left? Do you have Israeli leftists, prominent Israeli leftists, that are mea culping, publicly saying, you know what, I've got to rethink things?
a hell of a lot.
Really?
I know a lot of leftists. I'm an artist, and most artists
Of course.
today,
Right.
unlike artists in the previous century, most artists today, their default position is,
Progressive leftist stuff.
yeah, they're bullshit. They're faux leftists. They're not
Mhm.
real leftists. They're just okay, peace and whatever. We can make peace with the Palestinians. All we have to do is talk to them. They're not saying that right now. There's very few people talking about peace right now.
Are
Although
any admitting that they did say that and that they were wrong?
yeah, a lot. I know a
Mhm.
lot of them. But then you have your real far left folks, I'll call them, who nothing will change their minds.
Right.
You yell, "You're a fucking Jew and I want to kill you" in their face, and they're
Yeah.
listening for dog whistles. It's not enough for them. I don't hear a dog whistle. And there's some people that you just can't, you're not going to change. Their ideology is weak, yet their hatred is strong. And their ideology gave them who to hate. I realized, I realized that after South Africa imploded, after the white government imploded, that we were always next on the list. And that, it took the left so long to learn how to say apartheid. It took them years to pronounce it. And then it took them even longer to spell it. So they
Uh-huh.
got all these signs, warehouses filled with signs saying, down with apartheid. And they go, well, what are we going to do with all these signs? And they go, well, we'll call Israel apartheid. And they take out the signs and they scratch out South Africa and they put in Israel. And it was just the same. It's always the same colonialism, apartheid. It doesn't matter that there isn't any apartheid here, and colonialism, they don't realize that Palestine is a totally colonial construct. There is this guy named Bashir, Azmi Bashara, and he
Right.
was a member of the Israeli parliament for many years, head of the Balad party.
Wait, Howie. Can
Yeah.
we pause? Let's pause the recording for a moment. Um, I've got to go to the bathroom for a second. I got to pee. Okay.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right.
So you wanted to? All right. Anyways, we'll pause. I'll see you again in a moment.
I'll
Here we
just
go.
place. Yeah.
Okay, we're back. Okay, so I'd asked you whether or not there are a number of leftists that are kind of openly admitting that they were wrong, um, kind of, publicly trying to make right the impact, whatever impact they might have had, um, just the way we all do.
You know what? I don't know what they've been doing publicly. All I can tell you is the many leftists that I know privately
Right.
have have told me, yeah, there's nobody to talk to. These guys are savages.
But
Whereas, see what happened
I want
what's
to see
very
it in the media. I want to see it in Haaretz. I want to see
oh
it.
no, you're not going to get it from Haaretz.
Yeah.
Haaretz exists for a very different reason. They're always in opposition. No matter who's there, they're in opposition. They're basically your angry uncle, or your mischievous aunt.
Mhm.
They're always just looking to gossip and hate and you. They're finger pointers. So they're never going to point the finger at themselves.
Okay.
And they'll have more than enough, especially what's with all the support they're getting from the left in the world.
Mhm.
They have no reason to.
Mhm.
So I don't expect anything out of Haaretz, but just privately, talking to people, they're just the harshest reactions. The type that say we got to go in and kill everybody.
Yeah.
My left wing friends,
Why do you think that is?
because they've been shocked and hurt. Because what happened was you had all these kibbutzim on the border, and they were filled with peace activists. Kibbutzniks are modern day left wing peace
Right,
activists.
right. And when you say all
And
these, how many approximately? Because I have no idea. People watching this will have no idea. How many?
what? How,
How
how
many
many what?
kibbutzim? Kibbutzim.
There's five or six, 4, 5, 6. I don't know the exact number.
Okay.
And a few got 3 or 4 got hit really. Bieri,
What are their
Bieri was just
populations like? How
almost
many
wiped
people?
out.
How many people live in them? How big
A
are
few
they?
hundred, few hundred,
Okay.
few hundred members, and children. Just a beautiful place. Bieri was a beautiful place, but they went through that place. It was a pogrom. It was pure and simple a pogrom or a massacre. And that's what they were out to do. It's freaky. And, my left wing friends just went, people who had been active in peace. I sent my kid to a mixed Arab and Jewish school, mixed Muslim and Jewish school. Because I was into peace at one time. I thought it was possible. And while he was at the school, the Intifada was happening, and I was moving right, let's just say, from being left, and I was losing a lot. I lost faith in the whole peace thing. It just land for peace is bullshit. You want peace? It's peace for peace, like we were
Right.
doing with Saudi Arabia and the Emirates and Bahrain and Morocco. Peace for peace. You want peace? We'll give you peace, but we're not giving you anything. I don't personally. I don't want to see a state on the West Bank. I don't want to see it because we gave them Gaza. We left Gaza, totally left Gaza. This whole thing about Israel applying a siege. It's I.
You've
It's
just anticipated my next question. I wanted to ask you this next, and so I'll just ask you in my terms, but you're right over the subject, anyways. So tell us about that. When Israel withdrew from Gaza in 2006, was it?
uh-huh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it your personal belief? Here's my impression as someone who doesn't know that much about it. I kind of thought that Israel really did think we're hands out. We've gone through a lot. We paid a lot of political capital and a lot of kind of strain within our own community to kind of force out these Jewish settlements. But we did it, and we're out. We're gone. And did you actually think for a moment that this is actually going to be pretty cool? That the
I
Gazans,
supported it. I supported it. I thought Sharon was right. Let's get the fuck out of there and give them a state. What the hell? You know?
who, and so how free were they? How free were they before they started? Before Hamas came in and before
Well,
Israel?
the two things. Something happened
Tell us
before
about that.
when Oslo first took place, and peace was in the air, and they had an airport in Gaza. They had an
Okay.
airport, an international airport in Gaza, and
They
then air.
opened the Gazan open air prison airport.
No, it wasn't an open air prison at the.
Okay.
It
All
was
right.
just Gaza or West Palestine, like West Bangladesh,
Right.
which is Pakistan. But
Right.
they had an airport, they had a port, they had everything they needed. And Arafat decided, with a very important line on the first night of the Intifada, I remember him saying in Arabic on Palestinian television. I was sitting with somebody who spoke Arabic. I would not have understood. He said, we will fight standing because we will not make peace on our knees. So, the idea of making peace meant humiliation for him. And in the Middle East, everything is honor and humiliation, honor and humiliation. Your daughter looks sideways at some guy walking down the street, or starts meeting with some guy who she hasn't been promised to or married to. And, the brothers will get together and take her out. And there's that family honor, there's a personal honor, there's now there's a national honor. They never had that before, but there's
Religious honor, of course.
true. And they have to protect their honor more than anything else. And how do you get honor? You humiliate somebody else. And you see it all the time, you know, these stupid things happening, and you're wondering, why is it happening? And then you realize this guy's doing this out of honor. He knows he's going to get killed. Hamas knows they're going to get walloped. And they don't care. They don't care. This was their chance for honor. And they could humiliate, they could rape, they could murder, they could humiliate the men and just put it in Israel's face. And that's all they were after. If somebody, you know, they're asking Israel now, well, once you defeat Hamas and take over Gaza, what are you going to do? It's a fair question. But nobody's asking Hamas, well, after you rocket Israel and rape some women and kill some innocent civilians, what are you going to do? You
They don't
know,
have to figure it out. They're nihilistic, and they've got Allah to answer that. You know, for the longest time, and you know this about me, after 9/11, I got really into Islam, and I got very, very persuaded by the writings of Quranic critical, if you will, writers like Robert Spencer and Raymond Ibrahim and all those guys. And it's been a simple thing for me. I've always thought that it's right there. It's right in the Quran. They either have to disabuse themselves of it, or they have to somehow it's going to impact them, and they're going to follow that if you're like a believing Muslim. And what I think, if my Star Trek episode, you know, that takes place like 1,000 years from now, we're going to look back on the time that finally the world confronted the textual edicts of the Quran. And that's got to happen. And if it doesn't happen, it's waiting to happen, and it's got to happen. We have to kind of
I
confront
think
the Quran.
you know what? I think they are certain that they have the numbers,
Yeah. Oh,
and they're still the people on the hill coming out of the desert looking down on the green valley.
right.
And you know, you see the Saudis who are now living in the green valley. They're not out in the desert anymore. They got more money than Allah, and their city, they got their gardens, they're getting fat and happy, and they want to keep it that way. And they know that Hamas and these, you know, these dirty dudes are the guys who are hungry for what they have.
Well, the leadership isn't. I
No,
saw
the
it.
leadership, their leadership is worth billions, and they're sitting in
Top three
Turkey
guys,
and
$11
Qatar.
billion. Right.
And it's just, but you
Yeah.
know, but you won't see that in the left-wing media. They're supposed to hate rich guys. You know, the thing is it's the left has gone insane. They've simply gone nuts because you know you look, it's like queers for Palestine,
Awesome.
you know, which is essentially chickens for KFC and blacks for the KKK and Jews for Hitler. It's absurd. It's stupid. Yet they proudly hold these signs that what are you going to do? It's insane.
Yeah.
It's just insane. So you can, the hatred is part of the insanity, because they're marching down the street with a guy who, if this woman who's yelling free Palestine from river to sea next to this guy who's going, kill all the Jews, kill all the Jews. You know, if these two were in an alley together 20 minutes later, she's finished. Or if she walked into Gaza,
Right.
she's somebody's wife real fast, and she don't have a choice. Or these gay guys walking around. It I remember speaking to one of my Arab buddy, and I'm going, you know, what do you think? What do you think of homosexuality? We're talking about different things. And he goes, homosexuality is a psychological problem. It's a disease. So
Right.
how do you treat it? And he goes, well, we send them to psychologists, you know, to a sanatorium
That
where
doesn't.
it will be bred out of them somehow. And you know, I'm looking at him and I go, you know, you vote for a party that supports homosexuality and transgenders, because he votes. He's an Arab Israeli who actually votes for Meretz, which is the
Yeah.
most left-wing party in Israel.
Okay.
And I say, because he's for peace, so he thinks they're the peace party. But I said, but they also have social. They have their social side and their socioeconomic side. And he's a capitalist. He's a builder. He builds. He creates. He builds. And I'm going. They don't like you very much. You know.
What he said.
What he said. And and they totally support homosexuals and transgender. And do you? And he goes, no, 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 no. And I said, so maybe you should change your party. So he did.
Huh?
He did change his party. He did change it. He now votes for one of the Arab parties, but one of the pro-Israel Arab parties, let's just call it. But it's fascinating to see the dichotomy of thinking. And like I said, when I look at the left in North America, they're supporting misogynism. They're supporting a regime which is totally anti-gay. There was, supporting a regime which loves war, which worships war, which educates their children. That's the difference. We raise a generation where we're educating their kids that they can live in peace. And they're giving their kids guns at the age of 5. They're sent to a UN school, one of these UN refugee schools where they're taught to hate Jews and they're taught to hate blacks, and they just hate everybody, and including yourself. You're going to
Me?
die, huh? Not you.
Okay. All right.
They're taught to, these Hamas schools, they're taught to hate themselves. You're going to kill yourself
Right.
for Allah and for to kill the Jews. And it's just absolutely insane that a left winger would go, yeah, that's what I support. Yeah, that's me. It's sick. So I just consider it at this moment, at this time, that Lenin succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
He succeeded 100 years late, but he succeeded. That was his dream. Not so much Stalin. Stalin was less into the dream. Stalin was more of a national socialist, let's call him.
Mm-hmm.
But Lenin was world revolution along with Trotsky. And these guys, it's happened. They filled the universities with numbskulls, and with Qatar has been buying universities and paying them off to hire Islamists who are crazy, and mixing that with the Marxists who are always looking for chaos. And it just every time I see it, it reminds me of Bani Sadr. Remember Bani Sadr?
The name, and I can't
Remember
remember.
that name from the past?
Yeah,
He was
but
he was the left-wing student, left-winger who headed the student revolution in Iran. The guys who actually brought down the Shah.
okay.
And after they exceeded with their revolution,
They got squeezed and killed and
well, no,
imprisoned.
first they succeeded as a
Right.
left-wing revolution,
Yeah.
and to continue the chaos, and to find the power, you bring in anybody you can. The Muslims bring in left-wing anarchists. They
Right.
don't give a shit.
Okay.
And here the left wing is bringing in Khomeini. They brought him back from Paris.
Mhm.
And this guy was banned. And oh, we'll bring him back. And then we'll
Mhm.
have the Muslims supporting us too.
Yeah.
I don't know how long it took, maybe 3-4 months before the Muslims just ate the left and threw him
Right.
into jail and either killed him or just got rid of him. Now they're all living in California or something.
What happened to Benny Satter?
Oh, he's gone. I think they threw him out of the country. It would be interesting. I should look and see what
Yeah.
happened to old Banny. He's probably a professor in Paris somewhere,
Sure. Oh, yeah,
teaching.
I've got to go. I've got to go.
Where are you going? It's
I've got
you're
it.
midday now, right? What time
No,
is
I
it?
know. What time is it? It's 1:30. I've got some work I've got to do, and I've got an appointment I've got to get ready for.
Cool.
Let's
This
do
was
this
fun.
again.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
let's do it again.
Nice talking to you.
Mhm. Okay, I guess
Give
that's it,
your
man.
give your lovely wife a hug and a kiss for me.
I will. And yeah, and say hi to Doreen, your kids, and let's do this again.
One day you'll get her name right. One day.
Dorit, Dorit.
There you go. This is the day. This is the day.
Okay, man.
All
All right.
right.
Take care. Talk to you
Take care.
soon. Bye-bye.
Peace. Bye.
Wait a second. Before I'm
What?
going to put this, if this works, I'm going to put it up on YouTube, and then I'll send you the link. We'll put some links of your art, a couple of the guys that we were talking about in the comments, and that's it. Okay.
All right.
All right, man. Take
It's
care.
great.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Take care.